it's a case of with the men as well. You're playing enough finals that the next time it happens, you eventually know what to do. Anyway, that's basically my take on it. I think my prediction.
Hello, everybody. We'll get to the proper tribute in a minute, but we're just going to kick off with a little bit of music. Um, Enjoy.
I'm feeling happy. I am so sad. I lost the best friend that I ever had.
She is my baby. I love her so. But it's too late now. I've let her go.
We're going through changes. We're going through changes. We shared the years, we shared each day. I love you, Daddy, but I found my way.
You know the world is
It took so long to realize, and I can still hear his last goodbye.
Now all my days are filled with fears. Wish I could go back and change the years.
We're going through changes. We're going through changes. We're going through
Hello, everybody. Ooh, hope you're all doing okay. This is a difficult one to do. Yeah. Yeah, we kicked off there with some changes by Ozzy and Kelly Osbourne, of course. A beautiful song, and their voices harmonise so well in it, and I've always loved that song. But you listen to the words in that song now that he's gone, and it's just even more emotional than it was when he was still here. This is a big loss. This is a big loss to the music world, to the world in general. It's being felt by millions around the world from all different generations. Yeah, it's very sad. But before we go any further and get into this tribute, we are going to be doing a few more songs. The likelihood is it is going to get blocked on YouTube. So make the most of this while it's live, because it will get blocked on YouTube. But I don't care, to be honest, because we need to play these songs and we need to do this tribute the way that we feel like we need to do it. And if it gets blocked on YouTube, it gets blocked on YouTube. The same thing happened with the Diego Jota tribute. It got blocked on YouTube because of You'll Never Walk Alone. So it is what it is. But that tribute to Jota was perfect. So, and we're going to try and make this one as perfect as we can, and just try and pay a tribute that is deserving of the man who we're paying tribute to. But anyway, before we get any further and before we get into the rest of the stream, my co-host as always for these streams, honestly I feel like we're doing these tribute streams far too much at the moment. But yeah, as always, my co-host for these streams, Professor Wigglytuff.
Thank you, Tom, and good evening, everybody. Yes, as Tom said, it has been a very sad past 24 hours, whilst, of course, we expected this day to come, given the man's deteriorating health, which was on show at what was effectively one of his last public appearances, let alone his final concert. It is nevertheless extremely heartbreaking to lose such an icon. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Please continue.
I it's, I'm finding this one difficult. This one's hit me. This one's hit me hard. As I'm sure it has hit a lot of people hard. I just, as my co-host just said, this day was to be expected sooner rather than later. Especially due to the ill health that was being shown in front of millions. But the good thing was he did manage to do that one last, um, that one last concert, and he went out on a high. The sad thing is that he couldn't stay with us long enough for him to be able to take Kelly down the aisle. Obviously, he wouldn't have been able to walk her down the aisle, but he would have been able to go down the aisle with her in whatever way he possibly could have. And I feel for her because every daughter wants their dad at their wedding, walking them down the aisle. So I do. I feel for her. I feel for the whole family. I feel for all the fans around the world who are feeling the exact same as me. He's been on my mind all day. In fact, ever since I found out that he passed away, he's been on my mind. It was very hard to actually work today because my mind was just elsewhere, but I did the best I could. A lot of people at work were feeling the same as me anyway, so everybody understood. But yeah, it's just a sad one, and I'll I don't know why I'm going to apologise first, but I will apologise in advance if I do get a bit emotional. But like I said, this one has hit me hard, and I got emotional listening to Changes just then at the start of the stream because, like I said, if you really listen to those words now that he's no longer with us, it's so much more emotional than it was when he was alive. I mean, it was emotional anyway, but it's so much more emotional now that he's no longer with us. Um,
Apologies, I just had to attend to something there.
no, you're
Yeah,
okay.
you took the words from my mouth. Yeah, that was quite emotional hearing Changes. I mean, um, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not gonna spend too much of this stream saying this. I'm not a particularly fan of Kelly Osbourne's singing abilities or lack of. But look, um, I think a song like that wasn't really about the musical number. And thinking back to when that song came out, it was just before Christmas of 2003. Um, it was off the back of the popularity of the Osbournes. Um, you know, um, Obviously, I was always aware of who Ozzy Osbourne was through various, you know, tidbits of his music, cultural references, and other media. Most notably, the Chef Aid episode of South Park, where Ozzy puts the blame on Chef for biting the bat because of something that got lost in communication. So effectively, Chef encouraged him to bite the head off a bat. Um, and then, obviously, of course, there was the infamous reality TV show, The Osbournes, which effectively introduced a new generation to Ozzy Osbourne and his music, and as well as the rest of the family. And I think for him that was good. It made him relevant again. I mean, he was always relevant, but it made him popular again in the mainstream, especially to a new generation of fans. And it brought us to this point, and especially as wrestling fans, very much intertwined with that. He was a regular attendee of WWE events. Also, provided the theme tune for a number of as they call them, PLEs now, and most notably, they've been using it for Survivor Series the last few years, War Pigs. And of course, he infamously made some guest spots on Raw. I believe him and Sharon Osbourne were once the guest presenter of Raw, or the guest manager, general managers. And we can't end his WWE association by not mentioning the fact that he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. I believe 2021. Sadly, couldn't be done in front of an audience due to COVID restrictions. But yeah, both of us as wrestling fans, we know about his connection to wrestling, and as football fans as well. Albeit, he was an Aston Villa fan. Um, you know, and his story. We have a I know both of us as Mancunians, we have a bit of a rivalry with Birmingham, but he was very much a patriot of where he came from, much like how we are, Tom. And, much as, how proud we are of our homegrown bands, you know, I don't need to mention names. We know who they are, and this isn't about them. But, you just have to look at the impact Ozzy Osbourne and his success, and indeed his passing, has had on the city of Birmingham, which was a bit of a shrine to him the past couple of weeks because of the concert, and will now be certainly for a short while now, um, since his passing. And I'll be brutally honest and upfront with you all. I wasn't a massive Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne fan. I liked a handful of his songs. I was more a fan of his aura, his personality, his performances, the fact that he was this larger than life icon. And, that is a term that gets bandied around a lot, but it is just so true. You have to look at the number of people he was friends with or who admired him or who paid tribute to him, whether it's people like Brian May from Queen, whether it's people like Alice Cooper, whether it's people like Sir Paul McCartney, whether it's people like Sir Elton John, even Lady Gaga. This was a man who was known, he was an A-list celebrity. He was an A-list celebrity. He was well known, and yes, he had his demons, as many people do. There was, before his career took off, he obviously spent a stint in jail for burglary. He had well-known issues with drugs and alcohol. But look, the man overcame his demons and led a very successful and happy life. And it's bitterly sad he won't be there for his daughter's wedding. But in a sense, at least they got to say goodbye together, in front of his fans in his hometown. And also, he got to be a grandfather as well. So, you know, he had a good innings. He had a good life, and we should be glad that we were around to enjoy his music and enjoy his presence. Um, And yeah, I've forgotten to even say I did have the privilege of seeing him perform live at the 2022 Commonwealth Games closing ceremony in Birmingham, where I was a volunteer. So, um, you know, that is a moment I will never forget for the rest of my life. And it's just sad that, we now have to talk about Ozzy Osbourne in the past tense so soon after his final concert. But, sadly, Tom, sadly, viewers and listeners, that is unfortunately the way of the world. People come and go, but we appreciate the time that they were here and we appreciate what they leave behind. So, you know, cheers to you, Ozzy, wherever you are. Rest in peace. Um, my condolences to Sharon, Kelly, Jack, Amy, and the rest of the Osbourne family, as well as Ozzy Osbourne's many, many, many friends throughout the industry and beyond, and of course his many, many fans all over the world. That's all I have to say for now, Tom. Thank you.
Like I said, this one's hit me hard. I will be honest, and very similar to my co-host. I'm not going to pretend and sit here and say that I was a massive Black Sabbath fan. I think there was like two songs of theirs that I liked. One which we will be playing very shortly, and I was a fan of the man that he was, the aura that he had. A lot of his, quite a bit of his solo stuff. I didn't mind either. but I just was a fan of the man himself. You know, the performances, the laughter that he gave us, the legendary moments, the just sheer chaos that followed him around. He just, there will never be anybody that even gets close to being like he was. Or even get close to the aura that he had. You know, and but putting all that to the side, just the man he was, the compassion that he had for people, the things that he did for charity. I mean, he raised 140 million from his very final concert, and did he keep a single penny of that? No, he did not. He donated all 140 million of that money that he raised during that concert to charity. That was the kind of man Ozzy Osbourne was. He was, he was so humble when it came to how big of a star he was. He never really took that seriously. He just, you know, he just didn't. He was just humble with it. And, yes, he had his issues back in the day, but so many rock stars back in them days did. You know what I mean? He didn't do anything that a lot of other rock stars didn't do in back in them days. A lot of them did drugs, a lot of them drank, a lot of them got in trouble with the law. You know what I mean? Not many of them were perfect back then. So we can't hold that against him. But he was an inspiration to so many. He had an impact on so many in this world, whether that be, you know, whether that be, rock bands like Metallica, um, you know, um,
Rage Against the Machine,
yeah, um, what,
Guns N' Roses,
yeah,
Aerosmith,
yeah, whether
you
that,
name them. You
yeah,
name them, they're there.
whether that be, whether it would, whether that's on, the younger stars of today, like Youngblood, for instance, this new kid that's come on the block that Ozzy basically passed the torch to, at that concert. You know, some people are hailing him as, this young blood as the new Lord of Darkness, and I don't believe that yet. I don't believe he's done enough to get that name. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne, was the Lord of Darkness, and he's nowhere near. I mean, I like Youngblood, but he's nowhere near the. He has nowhere near the star power to be able to take that name yet, in my opinion. But I think he has the potential to. And if Ozzy has given him the seal of approval, then who are we to say any different? But anyway,
Yeah, I was having a think about this earlier, when I was just walking down the street, thinking about musical icons, how we laud them, when they pass, what we think of them, whether it was, of course, Ozzy Osbourne, whether it was someone like Prince, whether it was Michael Jackson.
mm,
And, inevitably you go online and, old farts like us will always comment, oh,
excuse me.
you know, people like, sorry, I called us old, but
It's fine.
but we'll talk about the likes of the current crop today, and say, oh, they couldn't hold a candle to such and such, and yeah, we can believe that sometimes, but I think we also have to remember, different people mean different things to different people,
Yeah, of
and
course.
you know, people like Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, Justin Bieber, you know, are now this generation's Michael Jackson or Ozzy Osbourne or Prince.
Mm,
And hopefully we won't have to report on that for a very, 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 very long time yet. But one day when someone like say Ed Sheeran, when his time comes to meet his maker,
mm,
then people will talk about Ed Sheeran, I'm sure, in the same way that they talked about Ozzy Osbourne. They'll talk about the likes of Lewis Capaldi, Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, Adele, in the same way that they do about Ozzy Osbourne. That's what I really love about music, how it can be timeless and how it shifts and adapts with the times. No one person is always going to be on top forever, but if you make good enough of a mark, you'll still be remembered years from now. And, you know, I guess that's the point, in terms of, us being or not being, big Black Sabbath fans. They weren't big in our day. You know, we grew up with the likes of Oasis, Nirvana. You know, the Britpop era. Um, you know, Black Sabbath was the '70s. That it wasn't our era, but you know, the fact that we're sat here talking about Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath is because of the impact that they had
Yeah,
on music
exactly.
that was intergenerational, and the fact that, you know, even if it was just one or two songs, they're one or two songs that are known to a lot of people who might have an interest in rock music or Western music. You know,
Mm.
it's important to make that distinction because, you know, there are still lots of people out there who probably couldn't name an Ozzy Osbourne track, but, you know, as I said, different people from different cultures listen to different music as well.
Yeah.
You know, just as much as Ozzy Osbourne is big to us, there are plenty of singers who have millions of fans, say in India, who we will never have heard of. But, you know, to millions of people in, say, India, where, you know, their entire fan base could equate to, like, say, the entire worldwide fan base of a band that might be big in the West. So, but I'm going off on a tangent slightly there. I guess the point I'm trying to say is, you know, he was intergenerational. You know, people who know nothing about his music know who he is. You know, whether it's the Prince of Darkness tagline, you know, the infamous biting off a bat's head, you know, whether it's the cultural references, whether, you know, his iconic long hair and his sunglasses, you know, him shouting Sharon, you know, that you know, distinctive Brummie accent, as it were. You know, and the fact that he was, you know, he effectively created a music genre, you know. So every one of those bands that you mentioned and others really owe a lot to Black Sabbath. You know, if you like any sort of rock music that's played loud in a stadium, you owe that to Black Sabbath. They popularized that.
Mm.
So yeah, you know, you know, and you know, it's not just about the city of Birmingham as well. You know, this country lost a great musical icon,
Mm.
um, as well as what's the word? You know, a global music star. You know, known the world over.
Yeah.
Whether it's here, the States, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Germany, Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, India, you know, Poland, you know, I could name countries forever and ever. There isn't a corner of the world, you know, South Africa, there isn't a corner of the world or a continent, with the exception of Antarctica, unless penguins listen to Black Sabbath or any of the research scientists based in Antarctica listen to Black Sabbath. There isn't a corner in the world that hasn't heard of Ozzy Osbourne or Black
Mm.
Sabbath. Uh, but the most bizarre thing, if I can just go on off a tangent for just 1 second with a silly story. So I was in a restaurant after I went to a movie premiere yesterday, and then after that, I went to have some food, and then went to watch the rest of the football. Somebody who was paying for the bill saw their phone and they said, "Oh my God, Ozzy Osbourne's died," and like I didn't know he was unwell. He was so young, and you know, those are the people, you know, that aren't Ozzy Osbourne fans or didn't really care. But we cared.
Yeah.
And, you know, as I said, it was a privilege and an honor to see him perform at what was effectively his second to last concert. And then it was a privilege again to watch his final concert online with so many other viewers around the world, you know, raising money for charity. Yeah, it does feel strange. Like it's not even been 2 weeks since that concert. I mean, it's not even been 3 weeks since that concert and he's passed away.
Mm.
That is what is very, very sad about this. But as we said before, we're not surprised. He was sadly unwell. We knew this was coming. We just didn't expect it that soon. But
Mm.
you know, rest in peace, Ozzy.
Yeah. Just before we get to our second song of the stream, I just want to just read some messages from Genetic. I feel like I'm being quite ignorant, and I apologise, Genetic. He says, "Hello, how's it going?" Well, as well as he can do on a stream like this. He says, "Yes, at times at least Ozzy could make one more concert before he died. Yeah, at least he managed to do that." Um, about me saying I might get emotional earlier. He said, "Don't worry about getting emotional. It's a sad time." And then he said, "Music is the universal language of humanity. Thanks for contributing to Ozzy. Rest in peace and condolences to your family and friends." Thank you, Genetic, for all those comments, and thank you for joining us as well. It's always, oops, sorry. It's always nice to see you in the streams. Anyway, we're gonna play our second song now, and it's gonna be the only song of Black Sabbath that we're gonna play. The other songs that we're gonna play are by Ozzy himself, solo singles. So, but we had to play this one. In my opinion, the best song they did. I don't know about my co-host, but definitely, in my opinion, the best song they did. And it's called, of course, Paranoid.
My favourite of all time.
Well, there you go. So here you go. We're going to play Paranoid, and we'll speak to you after this.
Finished with my woman 'cause she couldn't help me with my mind. People think I'm insane because I am frowning all the time. All day long I think of things, but nothing seems to satisfy. Think I'll lose my mind if I don't find something to pacify. Can you help me? Not you from my brain. Oh yeah. I need someone to show me the things in life that I can't find. I can see the things that make true happiness. I must be blind. Make a joke and I will sigh, and you will laugh and I will cry. Happiness I cannot feel, and love to me is so unreal. And so as you hear these words telling you now of my state, I tell you to enjoy life. I wish I could, but it's too late.
Well, there we go. Paranoid there by Black Sabbath. What a tune! What a tune! So yeah, like I said, this one has hit me quite hard, so I'm finding it difficult to really talk too much about this. But you know, I feel like me and my co-host, we've said, you know, pretty much everything we can say about Ozzy. I mean, what else can you say about Ozzy that we haven't said? I mean, the man was just, I don't even know how to describe him apart from that he was an aura. He had an aura, and he was just, there'll never be another one. He was that unique, there'll never be another one. And, you know, it's just such a, it's such a sad day, not just for music, but for the world in general, especially the UK, especially Birmingham. You know, it's it's devastating. And like I say, I feel for his daughter, Kelly. You know, she's getting married and he's not going to be there. I know he would have wanted to hold on for that, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to. And you know, it's very sad. And obviously, you know, Sharon had been married to him for a very long time, so it's going to be very hard for her now just to all of a sudden not have him around. Um, you know, it's very sad. It's very sad, and um, I feel at this point, I'm gonna just maybe read out a few tributes that people have made for Ozzy you might not have seen. I'm just gonna quickly read out the tribute that I did for Ozzy to put it on Facebook earlier. Um, I put I found it hard to convey the words needed to pay tribute to such an icon, and that's what he was, a musical icon. I won't lie and say I was a big fan of Black Sabbath because I wasn't, but I was a big fan of Ozzy. He just had such an aura about him. Ozzy, you leave this world having left such an impact on so many people in this world. Thank you for the music, the legendary moments, the laughs, but most importantly, thank you for being you. A caring man who had compassion for so many, even though in your later days you did suffer yourself. But it didn't stop you from thinking of others. Rest in peace, Ozzy. You will be sorely missed. Um, that was my tribute to Ozzy. It took me a little while to think of them words. I wanted to post, you know, not long after I found out, but obviously I had to get my thoughts together. I was a little bit emotional, and I wanted to make sure that the tribute was was a fitting one. Um, you know, for you know the icon that he was. So that's why I thought about it for a little while, and then did that tribute. Um,
Yeah, I mean, so my tribute was kind of something that I had posted a couple of weeks ago on the day of the final concert, which was a clip I recorded at the closing ceremony of the Commonwealth Games where I saw him perform. It was a snippet of Paranoid. He didn't perform on stage for long. He didn't perform full songs. That he was able to even stand during the performance was great. But I reshared that video with the following words. This is now both a precious and poignant memory to have witnessed Ozzy Osbourne's penultimate performance. Whether you liked his music or not, whether you liked heavy metal or not, or loved and loathed his outrageous antics in equal measure, the man was an icon and a significant chapter of not only Britain's rich musical heritage, but of global music. R.I.P. Ozzy Osbourne. As long as there is music, the Prince of Darkness reigns forever.
very nice tribute there.
And you know, as I said, it was short, sweet, to the point. I'm not gonna pretend. I'm not gonna jump on some bandwagon and say, "Oh, I was a hardcore Ozzy Osbourne fan," you know, or that Ozzy Osbourne inspired me. This inspired me that. Not at all. Not at all. And I'm not going to do that. It was the same for me with David Bowie. You know, I wasn't a Bowie fan, except for one or two songs, but I appreciated the impact he had. You know, a bit like Elton John. Not a massive fan. I like a couple of songs, but not a massive fan. But I appreciate the impact he had. And the sad thing is, you know, I mention all these names, you know, eventually a day will come, you know, that all of these names will then fade into history. They won't ever be forgotten, of course, but they'll no longer be around. So, you know, appreciate them whilst they're still around. Appreciate their music and let their legacy live on forever, I say. Um, but yeah, you know, music, British music is a sadder place without Ozzy Osbourne, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
Um, and the fact that literally was his final performance is all the more poignant and emotional. I remember watching the concert, and it really did feel like a humanist type funeral. You know, like someone being at their own funeral. You know, with their family and friends around them, doing what they enjoyed doing the most, getting a chance to say goodbye, have a great time with their family and friends and fans, and just, you know, sharing the good times. And yeah, yeah. Sorry if yeah, sorry if it seemed a bit um seem a bit sad, but um
Okay. Well, like I say, I'm going to read a few tributes here that people have made to Ozzy, starting with Sir Elton John. He says, so sad to hear the news of Ozzy Osbourne passing away. He was a dear friend and a huge trailblazer who secured his place in the pantheon of rock gods, a true legend. He was also one of the funniest people I've ever met. I will miss him dearly. To Sharon and the family, I send my condolences and love, Elton. Um,
I think Paul McCartney did a tribute.
Ronnie Wood has he paid tribute and said, "I am so very sad to hear of the death of Ozzy Osbourne. What a lovely goodbye concert he had at Back to the Beginning in Birmingham." Ozzy's Black Sabbath bandmates declared Ozzy forever in a powerful tribute to the icon on X. Jason Momoa.
Of course, who presented the concert, of
Yeah.
course.
He wrote, "Love you, Ozzy Osbourne. All my aloha at Sharon Osbourne and Ohana. So grateful. Rest in peace." Um. So Rod Stewart said, "Bye bye, Ozzy. Sleep well, my friend. I'll see you up there later rather than sooner." Um. Pride of Gypsies said, "Love you, Ozzy Osbourne." Oh no, that's the same guy. Jason Momoa. Sorry, I didn't see that was the same guy. David Beckham said, "So sad to see Ozzy leave us. Thank you for entertaining us. Sending love to Sharon, the kids, and family." Piers Morgan, of course, good friend of Sharon Osbourne, has said, "One of the greatest rock stars in history and a wonderful character. Truly one of the funniest people I've ever known, and I'm glad." Hang on, what's going on here now? Sorry about this. Why is this doing this now? Sorry. What's going on now? I can't see it.
Well, whilst you're doing that, I thought I'd just chip in and mention if there's a great video out there, if you can find it, to anyone that's listening, of when Ozzy Osbourne met Paul McCartney and when Ozzy Osbourne was genuinely starstruck and telling Paul McCartney how much he inspired him. It's always very humbling when you see things like that, when one celebrity icon kind of pays tribute to another celebrity icon and tells them how much they inspired them. Um, but yeah,
Um, I don't know what's going on there with that one. But anyway, what's it doing now? What's my phone doing? Anyway, sorry. Youngblood, of course, the man that you know Ozzy gave his seal of approval to as sort of a passing of the torch moment, said, "I didn't think you would leave. I didn't think you would leave so soon. The last time we met, you were full of life and laugh, and your laugh filled up the room. But as it is written with legends, they seem to know the things that we don't. I will never forget you. You will be in every single note I sing." And with me every single time I walk on stage. Your cross around my neck is the most precious thing I own. You asked me once if there was anything you could do for me, and as I said then, as I will say now, for all of us, the music was enough. You took us on your adventure, you took us on your adventure, an adventure that started it all. I am truly heartbroken. You were the greatest of all time. Brian May said,
yeah,
"So sad to hear of Ozzy's passing. His last appearance at Villa Park was a glorious way to say goodbye. The love in that place for him was gigantic. I am grateful I was able to have a few quiet words with him after the show, and happy to know he passed peacefully with his loving family close by. But the world will miss Ozzy's unique presence and fearless talent. My heartfelt condolences to Sharon and their great family, and to Bill and Geezer, my dear friend Tony, for this is family. I know only too well. Rest in peace, Ozzy. Pearl Jam. Um,
Yeah.
Sad to hear Ozzy died. When I was in high school, I discovered Sabbath War Pigs. I discovered Sabbath. Full stop. War Pigs was terrifying and mesmerizing at the same time. It was Ozzy's voice that took me away to a dark universe, a great escape. Then when the Blizzard of Oz record came out, I was instantly a fan. Randy Rhoads was an influence on me to play lead guitar. Luckily, I got to play the song "Immortal" on the last record. Thanks for the music, Ozzy. Green Day, Billy Joe Armstrong says he has no words. No words. We love you, Ozzy. Adam Sandler. Whether we were in our basements with our brothers, in the woods with our buddies, in the car, at a keg pie, on a boat, at football practice, at a sleepover, nobody was more badass to crank up on our speakers than the one and only Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne. Loved him a lot, like we all did. Sending love to the family, and so happy to have spent time with the legend himself. Rest in peace.
Well, if I could come in with something, I'm just reading an article here. Obviously, his popularity, his friendship, his interactions transcended, and none other than Oasis. Now, and apparently Noel Gallagher's revealed, according to the Manchester Evening News, one bit of advice Ozzy Osbourne gave to him and brother Liam. So the article goes. Noel Gallagher once revealed a funny exchange he shared with Ozzy Osbourne when the Black Sabbath star gave him and his brother Liam an ironic piece of advice given his Prince of Darkness nickname. The music world is in mourning following the loss of Black Sabbath frontman Ozzy Osbourne after his death was revealed yesterday at the age of 76. A statement from his family read it is with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love. We ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time. Since then, tributes have poured in for the man who was instrumental to the heavy metal scene, and one anecdote has come from a resurfaced interview Noel Gallagher gave to Absolute Radio in 2023. Noel was promoting his Council Skies album, but during the interview, Ozzy's name came up before he told a hilarious story about meeting him. Despite his Manchester roots, Noel lived in Buckinghamshire for a long period and had an estate in I beg your pardon, Charlton St Giles. Article continues. And recalling one encounter with Ozzy, who also lived nearby in the area, Noel said, Ozzy used to live near me out in Buckinghamshire. Putting on his best Brummy accent, Noel continued, he said to me once, bit of advice for you and your brother, try and smile a bit more. And we were like, oh, thanks for that. Thank you. After the clip resurfaced after Ozzy's death, one fan commented, imagine being told by the Prince of Darkness to smile more often. Another one joked, he wasn't wrong though, was he, Noel? A third said, one legend less, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy, who was diagnosed with a mild form of Parkinson's disease in 2003, performed his final set from a large black throne just weeks prior to his death. The historic moment took place at his beloved Villa Park, home of Aston Villa FC, close to where Black Sabbath got together way back in 1968. Many famous faces have led tributes to Ozzy, including Sir Elton John, who took to Instagram to call him a dear friend and huge trailblazer who secured his place in the pantheon of rock gods, a true legend. And like Noel did 2 years ago, Sir Elton also mentioned Ozzy's sense of humour and added, he was also one of the funniest people I've ever met. I will miss him dearly. To Sharon and the family, I send my condolences and love. Legendary American rock band Aerosmith also released the following statement. We're heartbroken to hear about the passing of our brother in rock, Ozzy Osbourne, a voice that changed music forever, from Black Sabbath to his solo work. Ozzy redefined what it meant to be heavy. He did it all with heart, grit, and that wild spirit that only he could bring. Our love goes out to Sharon, his family, his band, and the millions around the world who felt his fire. Rock on, Ozzy. You will be missed, but never forgotten. End of article.
Yeah. Not got your mic. Yeah, it's a really nice article, and Noel actually did pay tribute to Ozzy. It was a very simple tribute, and he just said, "A geezer to the end." Um, in typical Noel fashion, that is, that is the perfect tribute from Noel Gallagher, because that's just Noel Gallagher all over. A geezer to the end. But yeah, I've got a few more tributes here, and then we're going to play my favourite Ozzy song, Crazy Train, and then we'll speak for a little bit longer, and then we're going to finish with another song, which I will
And if
reveal
I can
in a
just
bit.
And if I can just ask to anyone that's listening, whether it's Genetic, ACGT, or others, post your favorite memories or favorite songs. What's your favorite songs by Ozzy Osbourne or Black Sabbath, or any sort of funny memories you have of him. Whether he appeared on TV shows or films or whatever. Pop them in the chat. This isn't about us mourning Ozzy Osbourne. We should be
Yeah,
celebrating his
exactly.
music.
Yeah.
We should be celebrating his life and career. That he went out on his own terms. Notwithstanding illness, but in the sense that he got to do it on his own terms.
Yeah. So another tribute I have here is from Metallica. Ozzy, rest in peace. It's impossible to put into words what Ozzy Osbourne has meant to Metallica. Hero, icon, pioneer, inspiration, mentor, and most of all, friend are a few that come to mind. Ozzy and Sharon believed in us and transformed our lives and careers. He taught us how to play in the big leagues, while at the same time being warm, welcoming, engaging, and all around brilliant. We are heartbroken and devastated by this loss, and send our love and condolences to Sharon and their family, bandmates, and his very large circle of friends. He left an incredible legacy and will be sorely missed. And that's just what we were saying earlier, about the impact that he's had on so many of these rock bands. It's incredible. The Nirvana Twitter page has also posted saying, "Thank you, Ozzy Osbourne, for the inspiration. At Black Sabbath is the template for heavy rock." And that's all I have for now. In a short few seconds, I am going to, or we're going to play Crazy Train, which is my favourite Ozzy Osbourne song. We'll talk for a little bit longer, and then we'll finish with another song, which, like I say, I will reveal in a little bit. But here we go. This is Crazy Train. Oh yes, that was Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne, of course. What a song. My favourite Ozzy song. Um,
Here's the thing. I was just saying to a friend of mine earlier today. We were talking about it. One of my colleagues. We were talking about it over lunch, and he admittedly, is not an Ozzy Osbourne fan or Black Sabbath. As I said, sometimes your awareness and taste in music are influenced by where you grew up. He didn't grow up in this country, so obviously, it'd be unfair to kind of assume. But I said to him, that you may not have heard of him, you might recognize some of the tunes. And when I played to him Paranoid, yeah, he recognized that. When I played to him Crazy Train, he recognized that. That was the uniqueness of his sound. And kind of the stream feels we started off a bit gloom, but we've played a few of his songs now. It's starting to feel a bit more like a celebration, like a rock party, as it were. We're celebrating the life, the career, the aura, you know, the fun, the wildness, the eccentricity, the weirdness, the outlandishness, the darkness, the Prince of Darkness. That is, Ozzy Osbourne, and that's how it always should be at times like this. We should always reflect on what the person had to give to us, and the hours of music that will still be listened to long after we are gone. you know Whenever they write books about heavy metal, whenever they write books about the history of British music, the history of music, Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath will be mentioned there. His place in music history as I can't remember, was it Sir Elton John or Brian May said, his place in the pantheon of rock gods is guaranteed forever. He is up there and always will be up there.
um, so I've got another tribute here from Iron Maiden. This one. Everyone connected with Iron Maiden sends their sincere condolences to Sharon and the Osbourne family on the sad announcement of Ozzy's passing. He helped shape heavy metal as we know it, and we will be forever grateful to Black Sabbath for forging the path that so many followed. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. And again, it's like we said earlier, the impact that Ozzy and Black Sabbath had on so many rock and metal bands that we know today. It's incredible. It's incredible.
I'm not sure if you are obviously aware that Iron Maiden and namely Bruce Dickinson and Ozzy Osbourne, did have a very, 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 very bitter falling out and didn't speak to each other again, and indeed were not invited to the final concert, as it were, which was a real shame. But yeah, they paid tribute. But yeah, it is also worth pointing out, for as many friends Ozzy Osbourne did have, there were one or two people who perhaps, you know, didn't get on with the Prince of Darkness. But such is life. Such is life. Not everybody is, you know, uh, that people have friends, people have enemies, people have agreements, people have feuds. It is what it is.
Indeed, it is what it is, and of course, I don't know if anybody's seen it. I assume you have, but of course, WWE paid a small tribute to Ozzy on NXT. The commentators just did a little speech, and then they just showed a graphic that said, um, Ozzy Osbourne, and then the year he was born, the year he died. Um, it was a nice little tribute. I was hoping for a bit more from WWE, to be honest. But it is what it is. Not
I mean, they might, they
allows
might, they might do something on SmackDown,
maybe.
and certainly, I hope they'll do something on Raw next week. Given, as we pointed out, he was a former guest manager on Raw. Obviously with Survivor Series coming up, and they use, if they do have the rights to use War Pigs again, I'm hopeful they will say something there. But I know Triple H posted a very nice tribute, also referencing another of his rock idols and another good friend of Ozzy Osbourne's, the late great Lemmy. So yeah, it's so sad, isn't it, when you realise, you know, Ozzy Osbourne's no longer with us. I felt the same way when Prince died.
Mm.
And Michael, I mean, Prince and Michael Jackson's deaths, you know, were a little bit different. They were sudden, they were unexpected, and very very tragic. But nevertheless, those hit me hard as well because I was massive fans of Prince and Michael Jackson. Muhammad Ali, a similar one. But I suppose if I can draw comparisons, at least with Muhammad Ali and Ozzy Osbourne, both of them were very unwell. Indeed, both had Parkinson's, um, and we knew the end would come, but they kept defying the odds.
Mm.
Uh, and I know it sounds a bit weird for me to say at least he went out on his own terms, but he really did. He got to do his final concert. He got to perform in front of his fans, even if it was him sitting down. He even did a Comic Con the week after, which I now regret not getting a ticket for. But, that being said, prices for the Comic Con were ridiculous. Well, they were ridiculous prices. But nevertheless, till the very end, he loved meeting and interacting with his fans. And that is something that should always be appreciated because it's sometimes often in short commodity these days.
Yeah.
And yeah, just to say again, yeah, I feel sad. I feel your sadness, Tom. I feel your sadness. We weren't big fans of the guy, but clearly we appreciated just what an icon he was. And you know dare I even say this, the world seems just that little bit emptier without him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
uh, yeah, the world just seems so much emptier without him, and it is sad.
It
But
is.
look, we all have, we all have a shelf life. We all have a time on this planet, and when it's time to go, it's time to go.
Mm.
Sadly,
Yeah.
and sadly, Ozzy Osbourne's time came a lot sooner than we hoped. Uh, but that really is life. Life has its own agenda, unfortunately. But look, as I always say about things like this, always be grateful that you had the time to enjoy his his presence.
Yeah, and look, there've been so many tributes today. I could go on and on reading them. I mean, I've seen some videos as well. I mean, Alice Cooper paying tribute to Ozzy during their
Yeah.
Cardiff show. Lady Gaga paying tribute to Ozzy at the end of her show. She dressed up as Ozzy, not with the long hair or anything like that, but she dressed in dark clothing, and a load of people came on stage with her as well and was dressed in dark clothing, and they played Crazy Train, I think, and they were just like doing a mosh pit sort of thing. That was her tribute. Coldplay played tribute. They sang Changes in tribute to Ozzy. It's just he had an impact on so many people in the music world. Genetics say he's getting a bit teary-eyed. I mean, look, it's understandable. It's a big loss. It's a big loss, and I. It's understandable to get emotional. I mean, I've seen so many TikToks today of people just emotional and crying. It's a big loss. It it,
No, as I
it
said,
just it feels like this is a very, very big loss in the music world. I mean, it is, and it feels like this one's going to stick with us for a while.
no, absolutely. Yeah, it's very sad. It's very sad. And you know, um, yeah. Um, like I said, I don't want to talk too much about other musicians. This is about Ozzy. This is,
Yeah.
but as I said, I can relate to a lot of other, big stars over the years whose losses I felt very strongly. Like I said, Michael Jackson, Prince, somebody else whom I'm sure you will be aware of, Tom, but others listening may not be, was the famous music producer, Tony Wilson,
Hmm.
who most famously was the founder of a company called Factory Records, which was responsible for bands like the Happy Mondays, Joy Division, and New Order. He effectively helped coin the Manchester movement, in the Manchester music scene, and famously ran a nightclub called the Hacienda Nightclub. Um, you know, he was very popular across Manchester, for his philanthropy, his charity, promoting social causes. He was affectionately dubbed Mr. Manchester. He was also a famous TV presenter, radio presenter. He tragically died in 2007. I remember leaving flowers for him outside the former Hacienda building, which is now a block of apartments. But this is what I mean when when somebody that means something to you or to a lot of people passes away. You want to find a way to pay tribute to them, and sadly, here we are. Here we are, sadly.
Um, I mean, I think we might leave it there. I think we've done Aussie justice with this tribute stream. I just wanted to point them out. The way I've set this stream up, where it just says "Rest in Peace Aussie" and then my camera, it's purposely set up that way. I wanted it to be dark. I wanted it to be, represent Aussie basically. So I didn't want any colour. I didn't want anything. I just wanted it to be as simple as possible, dark, for Aussie. Um, so yeah. Thank you to everybody who's been watching on YouTube. I see your comments. Um, I appreciate you all. Thank you, Genetic, for joining us on Twitch, and anybody else that's joining us that hasn't been chatting. Um, this one is, this one has hit hard. And I think it will, like I say, it will stay with us for quite a while. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Hopefully, our next stream will be a What's the News episode and won't be another tribute stream to somebody else, because I feel like that's all we're doing at the moment is tribute streams to people instead of actually doing What's the News. So yeah, but anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Feel free to put in the comments down below on YouTube if the video doesn't get blocked, with your memories of Ozzy. Just I don't know what else to say. But we are going to finish with the most poignant song that we could finish with. He did a beautiful performance of this at his very final concert. In fact, he did have a few voice breaks in it where he got a little bit emotional. It is an emotional song. Listen to the words very carefully. It's a very emotional song. It's a very different style of song from Ozzy. One of the only songs he did in this style. A beautiful ballad. It is the one and only "Mama, I'm Coming Home." Thank you again for joining us for this stream.
Yeah, I
Would you
saw
like?
that. Yeah, yeah. If I could just say a few words, the poignancy of this song. Um, you know, uh, how do I, um, how do I say it? Yeah, it's a poignant song, a poignant ballad, and in a sense, he did come home to his mama. He did come home, and as I said, I think we've done justice paying tribute to Ozzy Osbourne this evening, and you know, we should all be privileged that we grew up in an era where we were still able to enjoy his music, the impact of his legacy, and one day we'll be able to tell people. Certainly, I'll be able to proudly say, I saw the man perform live, and you know, yeah, it's just sad that he's no longer with us,
It is.
and it's a loss we will feel for a while. But Mama, your boy came home. Um, Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. My condolences to his family, friends, and many fans. And look, to all of you as well, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Tom, for doing this. Um, Celebrate, you know, celebrate his legacy. Listen to his music. The music will live forever, as they say. And you know, don't mourn for too long. And all I'll end with by saying is, long live the Prince of Darkness. And I'm sure that's a sentiment we all share. Long live the Prince of Darkness.
Absolutely. This was a hard one for me to do today, but I felt like it was. I couldn't not do it. I couldn't not do it. As hard as it's been, and as hard as it's been for me to not get emotional, I had to do it, and I appreciate everyone that's joined us. I appreciate everybody on YouTube, and rest in peace, Ozzy. We'll never forget you. And like my co-host said, long live the Prince of Darkness. Goodbye, everyone.
Times have changed and times are strange. Here I come, but I ain't the same. Mama, I'm coming home. Time's gone by, it seems to be. You could have been a better friend to me. Mama, I'm coming home. You took me in and you drove me out, yeah, you had me hypnotized, yeah. Lost and found and turned around by the fire in your eyes. You made me cry, you told me lies, but I can't stand to say goodbye. Mama, I'm coming home. I could be right, I could be wrong. It hurts so bad, it's